First 45-day window where you can have team practices or be in 20 hours a week. So basically mimic the spring. We'll go 5 days a week throughout this period, utilize the 4 hours per day. Found that helps with the strength and conditioning, to allow the players to continue to build this time of year, which we want them to do, but start to move into a lot more team-oriented stuff. We've had a good month of individual development. Now get on the field, kind of our process of, building towards winning with the players that we have, get a chance to see a little more about the personnel. That's obviously exciting, and get them kind of around the things that they'll need to do when we come back for the spring. Like we'll get exposed in some areas for some players and then help them tackle what they need to do in January to come back ready to go.
So still a big learning.
Big time, every day, yes.
You mentioned strength and conditioning, and you mentioned that when you got hired about making those improvements. Are you taking the strides? Are you seeing it kind of pay off the way that you want to? Because now would be a time, I guess, where you really...
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we're relatively healthy. You have little things that come up. Travis Roy's done a good job in this month. I think we're in a lot better physical condition maybe than we were a year ago. A lot of that has to do with the bodies on the team. So I think that's been good. We want to continue to build on that while we get through fall practice, not take a step back. But we need to get them on the field in some game situations, full-on practice days to develop. So we have a lot of ways to be successful and then keep going with the individual player development.
Any notable cross-training that you're doing or already experiencing?
No, I think Coach Wes Johnson has a real deliberate plan with building the pitchers up, and him and Travis have worked really well together to coordinate both of those things. We've made a adjustment where last year we would have them lift in the morning and have a big separation between when they throw. Now they're throwing before they actually do their strength and conditioning. So even in the context of practice, like you'll see some guys pitch, do their post-throw stuff, and then head right down to the weight room. And over his time, he feels like that's what's best. So we've made some small adjustments with that. More running with the position players. I think we have a lot of strength and going to be able to drive the baseball, but creating athleticism, to be a better defensive team, be able to do some more things on the bases, and frankly just stay healthy and do a better job of that. So I'm happy with where that's at right now.
You mentioned the athleticism a lot last season. That was kind of a missing piece on your team. Who do you think out of these new guys brings that element to your team?
Yeah, I think as guys go in their college career, if they do the right things with their body and with their training, they can get faster, move around better. Of the new players, I think probably the guys that stand out, Gavin Guidry, Paxton Kling, at the top of my head. We're certainly getting Mick Paul is a really good runner as well. But I think you'll even see some improvements with some of the guys that we had. I mean, Trey is fully healthy, which is great for him. I mean, he really lost the dynamic of ability to run and affect the game that way with the fighting his knee thing last year. Josh Stevenson moving around good. Josh Pearson moving better. Braden Jobert put a lot of effort, into this to try to improve as a defensive player. So kind of a wholesale effort on everybody.
Year 1 to year 2, does the process change at all in terms of fall because of what maybe you learned last year coming back from fall into the spring? Is there anything that maybe you want to figure out earlier from when you guys come back next year?
That's a good question. I think, in some ways, personally, you're a little more settled in and you can kind of just work as opposed to trying to figuring everything out. With that being said, we almost have an entirely new coaching staff. So there's a lot of similarities, and I want to make sure those guys get entrenched. So, what Coach Wes Johnson can do with the pitchers, what Josh Jordan can do with the catchers and the first baseman, that can really kind of take shape the way that it wants to. I think the returning players would probably tell you they're a little more settled as far as maybe knowing a little bit more what to expect. might put them in a better position to lead better, both by example and knowing what the expectations on a daily basis are. So I think that's a real positive. But then you have the guys that were here for the first time last year, and then the new players, like now this is all they know, and that's the majority of the roster. So I'm really excited just to get to work and take each step as it comes. We're not ready to play a game, not even close, but we're gonna play and compete today, and I'm excited to see what that looks like and how can expose stuff that we need to work on going forward.
With all schemes, just physically and up to this point, lived up to the billing and what you thought you were getting?
Yeah, I had a pretty good idea. I saw him as a freshman when he was at Air Force, both as a pitcher and as a hitter. I think he was the Mountain West Pitcher of the Year last year, first team All-American. The character and the makeup piece, which you guys will learn quickly, it's on a different level, as you might expect for someone who spent time in a service academy whose life is way different than an LSU baseball player. I'll see him kind of jogging around with a smile on his face. I think he's enjoying a little bit of maybe a little more freedom or normalcy, whatever you want to call it. But as far as the talent, it's pretty unique. It's a big, tall guy with, can create angle on the fastball, work downhill, really developing his secondary stuff with Coach Wes Johnson. And that's exciting. On the hitting front, made a couple home runs last week and live at bats, has tremendous power. But he's shown some aptitude to make some quick adjustments and kind of on his own, which is great to see. And that'll be, probably needed to be successful against high level pitching, which he knows that. He's smart enough to do it and talented enough to do it. And some of it's already taking shape, just on his own accord. Nothing that, we've necessarily done with him. So yeah, I'm excited he's here.
You told me I had to wait on Tommy White. Have I waited enough to know what you'd like to do with him?
As far as, oh yeah, he's doing great. He's hard worker, wants to be good, very unassuming, for a player that I think, was National Freshman of the Year at least by one or two publications. Doing a good job of blending with the team, working hard to earn his teammates' respect, which I think is super important as a new player. So he's doing a great job there. He has special hitting ability. He hadn't had an at-bat since probably the ACC tournament last year, and it was October or whatever, end of September, and it was like stepping in the box, and it's like riding a bike. It's, hard contact on a line, middle of the field, and the power numbers really stand out, but this guy's a terrific hitter that's only, a click or two away from being really, really special.
You mentioned Trey a little bit. Oh, sorry.
Hey, what's that? Third base, primarily, yeah.
You mentioned Trey a little bit, but for him and Dylan, they've been kind of the nucleus of this group for a couple of years now. Just can you feel that itch for them in terms of them wanting to potentially wind down their career with a special season?
There's no doubt about it. Those guys have been great. I appreciate different things about both of them. Trey is a terrific competitor. He is up there, for me in terms of when he steps in the box, it's like his at-bats are personal and finding a way to scratch it out do something to the team to win. I think he's created some really good awareness in the last year of what's the next step for him in his player development, and I've already seen an improvement in it. He's highly motivated, doing a great job on a daily basis. And as far as Dylan, very much like I just said with Tommy, this dude is a different cat. As far as talent, this doesn't show up in college baseball very often, but the way he carries himself in terms of how hard he works, how disciplined he is to what he's doing, type of teammate he is, they're on it. They want to do everything they can to be ultra successful, obviously individually, but for the team. And so we're in a really good spot with those guys right now.
Trey is only working at first?
No, he'll play some in the outfield a little bit too. I think when you have a talented group, it's a deeper roster. Whether we are ultimately better, that determines on how we improve and how we play and how we compete and a number of factors. But This time of year, there's no reason to be closed-minded in terms of how things shake out, and we'll look at everything. You know.
Could that be his future at the next level, the outfield?
Yeah, I think he could do both. I think you'll see in some of the improvements in his game. There's a little more prototypical first baseman in there than people may have been led to believe. I'll let that just kind of play out. But, he's a good athlete, and I think it only helps his value and then the flexibility of our team if we look at it. And that's what we're going to do.
Will you be coaching the infield this year?
I am coaching the third baseman, shortstops, and second baseman. And, I think they probably wish that I wasn't at this point in time.
Coach, could you give us an update on, how Javen Coleman and Jason Bowman are kind of, doing in their recovery?
Yeah, Javen is just begun throwing, and when I say throwing, it's very lightly throwing. I mean, it's a little bit, just kind of lollipopping it and moving his arm. And then Jason Bowman is throwing. He'll pitch at least an inning, maybe two this weekend. He may not totally be back to off-speed pitches and may just be fastball only. At least that's where he was last week in live at-bats. But he threw last week, and if you showed up and had no history on him, you wouldn't think he was coming off an injury or anything. So that's good for him.
Chemistry and camaraderie, you said a lot of the roster is new, but it seemed good. Is it above average for a group like that that's kind of just getting thrown together?
Yeah, I think, just awareness is really big with good teams and good programs. And so it's like if you can predict something, you can maybe prevent it. And we have a lot of good players. There's there's more than 9 good players on this roster as position players. And there's more than 9 good pitchers. And there's guys that, may not be at the forefront of it right at the start that will be by the end of the season. There's guys that may not play all the time that might play in the major league someday. So becoming a team and not just a collection of talent is a charge that we have and they have, and they're taking it very seriously. And I see some things that are really good. It's a Saturday morning a couple weeks ago, and I'm walking a recruit through here, and then Dylan's in there with Paxton Kling. Gavin's in there with Jordan Thompson, and you start to see some of those types of things. And it's generally a good group of guys. And what I've found, the longer I've been at places, everybody, is generally there for the same reason the longer you go. And it's a special place here, and these guys want to be a great team and work together, and they all have similar individual goals where they want to go. And so that kind of lifts everybody up. So we're just mindful of it. And the players, and particularly the returning players, are doing a good job of leading by example. The position players lift a couple times a week at 6:15 in the morning. Everybody's here super early. I mean, there's been zero drama, with any of those types of things. And, hopefully that just means we're growing, and, guys like Dylan are doing a really good job of setting the right example. So today, for instance, first kind of competitive game and all those types of things, we're not ready to play. There'll be some things that won't go good. It's a returning player's job to set an example of how we compete whenever something's on the line. And so far, they're doing a really good job of that, and I think it's helping that.
Wes, everything you want?
Yeah, it's awesome. Absolutely.
In what ways has he impressed you, I guess? Just the relationships?
I think it's complete skill set. Obviously, the knowledge base is really like nothing I've ever seen before. The energy, the communication skills, big picture, it's all there. And I've played against him 4 times, so I know the game thing's good. Very complete.
Maybe 2 more for Jay? How's Thatcher?
Great.
Recovered?
He'll throw on Sunday.
100%.
Yeah, he's doing great. Yeah, he'll pitch on Sunday.
And with the rest of the team, the health is pretty much more or less of a clean bill outside.
Yes and no. I mean, there's some guys that came in with some existing things that we've been a little slower to push. So there's a few guys that probably won't throw this weekend, and it's just more of where they're at. I don't see anything other than maybe the ones that were mentioned of like long term or anything. But yeah, it's just being smart with how we go about doing it.
What is your plan for pitchers doing this?
They've been at it pretty good since August 1st. And so I think one of the benefits of going late like this, I mean, they've had 7 weeks. And in live at bats last week, we did a couple guys actually went 3 up and downs, and they were on a pitch count. So it's probably about number of pitches more than innings. But there'll be a couple guys that'll go 3, and they're more than in a spot to be able to do that right now.
Milazzo at full go, or?
Yes, yeah, he's at full go. And, this summer, I think we finally got to the root of what was wrong. It's disappointing for him and for our team that we didn't get to that quicker last year. But he had a procedure very similar to Jordan Thompson did right before the season. That obviously really affected Jordan. And it kind of was the same thing why Alex couldn't bend. But we got it cleaned up, and he's moving along and doing great right now. He'll play today. All right, good to see everybody.
Thanks, Coach.